The choice of pursuing college has not been an easy one for students in recent years. 2/3 of students graduating from American colleges and universities will be graduating with some sort of debt. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates the student debt has topped $1 trillion, surpassing credit card debt. Many students have had to rely on scholarships, grants, federal aid, and private loans to pay for the expense of a higher education. With so much uncertainty about how they will pay for college, many students don't know the options that are out there.
Financial aid in general falls into three big categories. Grants and scholarships, which is free money, and students don't have to repay it, and loans, and then student employment. On the federal side, the largest program is the federal Pell Grant program. That is awarded based on the federal government's calculation of the expected family contribution. So students filed the three application for federal student aid, the FAFSA form. Assuming that you are a citizen or an eligible non-citizen, you file the FAFSA, you will be offered a federal Stafford loan. The program has limits based on the student's year in school. So for a freshman, the limit is $5,500, sophomore $6,500, junior and senior $7,500. If you go to grad school, that's actually $20,500 per year that they can borrow in that program. The Federal Plus loan is the parent loan for undergraduate students, and that's a loan program where dependent students' parents can apply for a loan, and it is credit-based.
Students like Savory Garnett, a junior at Montclair State University, have had to take out loans, but even with the extra help, it has still been hard.
Freshman year pretty much started out with financial aid and everything like that, but my financial aid didn't cover everything. Sophomore year, things got a little rocky, I guess, and it was a little bit more difficult for me to make my half of my tuition that I have to come out of pocket. So my parents had to pay the majority of it in order for me to register on time.
Major state spending cuts have had serious consequences for public colleges and universities across the country. States provide 53% of the funding to these institutions, and when state funds are cut, colleges and universities usually have to raise tuition to cover that gap. Annual tuition for four-year public universities has risen by a national average of 28%. Montclair State senior Sahai General is going into her 5th year of paying for college. It has been a bumpy road.
I did notice that tuition has been going up as the years go on. Financially, it was a lot more helpful in community college. I went through without paying a dime. And then when I came here, they couldn't supply enough, I guess because it's more expensive. You know, the classes cost more and tuition's a lot more expensive. So when I came here, I'd have to accept loans.
Freshman Grace Junn is starting her financial journey. She is the first person in her family to attend college.
I'm able to pay for school this freshman year of college is through a lot of federal grants, also with the financial aid loans. Plus I got a couple of scholarships from my school, so that also helped a lot.
Every student has their own personal anecdote that describes to others who they are and who they aspire to be. These backgrounds range from two-parent households to being raised in the system, and it just so happens that my story involves both.
The task of paying for college is even more complicated for Paulina Zuzak, a senior at Dover High School.
When I was little, it was determined that my parents could not properly take care of my siblings and me. At the age of 4 years old, I was forced to go live with my grandparents. I live with my grandparents, so since I live with my grandparents, I should be able to get more money from financial aid, opposed to living with my parents who people would think they would make more money and being able to support us, but in our situation, it's our grandparents who make more money, and we get help from the state. They'll probably see that and try to help out also.
To afford college, Paulina Zuzak will be applying for the Equal Opportunity Fund, or EOF program, of the state university of her choice. This program assists students from educationally and economically disadvantaged backgrounds attend college. Montclair State alumnus Sophia Chavez was fortunate enough not to have taken out any loans while in school.
When I graduated high school, I had a lot of swimming scholarships because I swam all 4 years of high school. And they were just schools that were far away that only covered a little bit of the tuition, and I'd still have to pay for everything else. It wasn't a full ride. So my father said, well, you got into Montclair, and we live like 10 minutes away from there. So if you just live at home and go to Montclair, I'll pay for school, and you won't have to worry about any debt or loans. If you go to one of those schools that you got scholarships to, then you're going to have to take out a few loans.
For students like Sahai General, having a parent pay for her education was not an option.
I have to help my mother with my sisters, and then my mother herself has a disability, so there's only so much she can do. She has a prosthesis from her hip to her knee, so it's a metal bone inside of her leg because she's a cancer survivor. She has to work the bare minimum because if she works more, they'll say she can afford to put me through school. It wasn't an option to take a higher paying job because if she did, she'd put us in even further debt, and we'd end up having to, scrape by with the bare minimum.
A lot of people don't go to college because they can't afford it. A lot of people drop out their first year because they can't afford it. It's even with financial aid. I mean, like, most of the time financial aid doesn't give you what you need. You know what I'm saying? Like, they give you parts of it and possibly try to split it up between your 4 years. And once you go past your 4 years, like, what if you do need to take that extra semester like I do? What if, you do need to take an extra year? What if something happened your freshman year?
One thing that's really important, and we try to drill this down on students all the time, is to graduate in 4 years. People don't think about the impact that it has on them when they take longer than the traditional 4 years to graduate.
With the rise of college tuition, many students find themselves settling for schools that were not their first choice. Rather, they went to schools that were safeties that saved them money and stress.
Oh, I totally settled for Montclair. Montclair was not my first choice at all. It's kind of funny to think about, but every choice you make really influences the way your life is now.
Everything was a factor when coming here, and sadly the factor, it was money.
To end up going to your safety, it's not bad. It's just that, like, you weren't my first choice, you weren't my second choice, you weren't even my third choice. So you are kind of settling. But at the end of the day, if you look at it, when you go out into the world, you're all getting the same education. Like, it's all the same.
Even more difficult than paying for college is finding a job after graduation. According to a study done by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the number of underemployed graduate students has risen to 44% since 2001. This means college graduates are taking on jobs that don't require a degree and subsequently pay less.
I feel like loans or no loans, it's just really hard when you can't find a job in what you want to do. That's the hardest part. Because you feel like you wasted time and effort, and in those cases you wasted money, you put yourself in debt, and then you go out into the real world and it's like you're standing there with all this experience and this resume that looks nothing like the guy who's been working there for 20 years' resume, but you can't find a job. Can't.
I don't even know if I'm going to be able to dive into my career because I'd rather take on more hours at my current job knowing that that paycheck is guaranteed.
And then the trillion-dollar question, is college worth it?
I absolutely believe it's worth it. There's plenty of evidence to show, research that's been done, to show that students who earn a bachelor's degree over the course of their lifetime are going to earn in excess of $1 million more on average than a student who never finishes a college degree.
When I was a kid, I promised myself that, like, I was gonna finish. Like, no matter what, I'm gonna finish. Like, my whole thing was, like, I didn't want to be a hobo. That's what I used to say when I was younger. And I promised myself that I would finish college. So, like, I'm gonna finish.